Good morning. So before I tell you even more about Chalica, I want to introduce you to something that I skipped right over earlier, which is that we have a song. The UU principals have a song, and you can sing it, and it's to the tune of Doe a Deer. And in fact, if you are a person who responded to the responsive reading, you've already said all the words. So I'm just going to sing it for you real quick. Feel free to join in if you feel brave. But one, each person is important. Two, be kind in all you do. Three, we help each other learn. Four, and search for what is true. Five, all people have a say. Six, build a fair and peaceful world. Seven, the web of life's the way. Eight, beloved community dismantles racism. Yeah, we're still working out that last one. I just had to share with you because honestly, I did not know this, and this is the best way I can find to remember all the principles and which one is which. Because I know them all, but sometimes I'm like, is that the fifth? Is that the sixth? Is it the second? I don't know. So, if you have, it's important because we're talking about Chalica, and Chalica is all about the principles. So if you've never heard of Chalica, you're not alone. It first emerged in 2005 from some conversations that a young woman had with other young adults when she was a student at the Vancouver School of Theology in Vancouver, British Columbia. Her name was Darlene Marshall. But she doesn't know exactly how it all got started. She says, we just were talking about winter holidays and the fact that there should be a UU holiday, and we may have discussed the same thing at our youth group at church. So once again, it was the children and youth who led the way. And she went home after one of those discussions in, say, November 2005. And she wrote something up that she thought embodied the values, and somebody made a website, and that was the beginning of Chalica. Now, what is Chalica? Well, once upon a time, long, long ago, far away, 2005, the idea is very simple. A 7-day or 8-day holiday, 1 day for each principle. And here it is. Light a chalice each day in honor of that principle. That's it. Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. I can do that. We can all do that. So that's the simplest form of Chalica, if we choose to follow it. This book, to which I would like to say a huge thank you to Meredith Plummer, who's the director of religious education at First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My Chalica book, again, I hope that you will take one home for your household, has all kinds of ideas about how to make chalices. And I can tell you, chalices are easy to make. I've made pretty chalices from everything from terracotta plant pots to toilet paper rolls. For real. I'll show you how. It's great. And in this little booklet, there are ideas and instructions. You can also take a tea light and set it in a cup. Voila, a chalice. So, generally speaking, Chalica starts on the first Monday of December and ends the following Sunday or Monday. But as you might expect with the UU holiday, that's flexible. This is the first year that I myself am adding the 8th principle. So I've decided that I'm celebrating starting today and going through next Sunday. That's 8 days. It works for me. Now, is that all we do for Chalica? Maybe. That's okay. If all you do is you light a chalice and you think about the principle for the day, that's a good thing. It will change you as you go through your day. But if you want to do a little more, guess what? It's very easy to do a little more or a lot more. Intentional engagement with the principle of the day can take 1,000 different forms. It could be that you really only have time for that basic idea, which is to light a chalice and do a special reading. special readings in the little book. There are also many more readings to ponder. If you can just Google UU Worship Web, it is a whole vast resource body of readings, poems, chalice lightings, chalice extinguishings. It's a wonderful place, and you can search by principle. So if you can, it can also be helpful to light the chalice at the end of the day, and during the time that it's lit, think about, or if you're with your family, talk about the ways that you saw that principle in action in your day. So if the first day is that today I'm celebrating the inherent worth and dignity of all people, then this evening I might sit around and say to myself, or, my kids, today I saw someone who was homeless, and instead of doing what we do, because we have to sometimes in walking by, I chose to stop, recognize that person's inherent worth and dignity. I said hello, I met their eyes, I shook their hand, I gave them or didn't give them something. It doesn't matter. It's just an example. That's something I did. And so at the end of the day, I could look back and say, that is where thinking about my first principle influenced my actions today, whether it was on purpose or not. And then you get to start fresh the next day with the next principle. But if you do decide to go all in, then there are as many ways to honor our principles as there are UUs. This is true. What I like to think about is how am I engaging my head, my heart, and my hands? So there are suggestions in the handouts for everything from social action work you can do each day to, for instance, to honor the seventh principle, you could adopt a plot in our local harvest garden. Whoa, wouldn't that be cool? And guess what? We have some available. Or if you wanted to celebrate our eighth principle and how we build the beloved community and dismantle oppressions, maybe you would say, I think in 2023, I want to read that book, Ending Bias, A Beginning, and I'm going to take part in that discussion with the author. That's a thing you can do that's specific, that could be guided by your chalice lighting and your own intention. There are all kinds of other things to do. There are movie suggestions for every night, family movies. Tonight, for first principle, inherent worth and dignity, they recommend Encanto, which I do talk about Bruno, and I can't wait. So, yeah, if you're a fan of movies. The only thing you really need, though, is a chalice, and even that can be imaginary. I'll tell you right now, you can do a chalice lighting just like this. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. That's your chalice. You've lit it. This is not a holiday that requires spending money. Yes, thank you. Can I get an amen? Amen. This is not a holiday that requires you to feel guilty because you didn't do it. No, it's not an obligation. If you are listening to me today and you're thinking, if I have to add one more thing to my calendar, then this is not the holiday for you this year. And that's okay. We're Unitarian Universalists. You're not going to go to hell. It's okay. You're not even going to go to heck. It's fine. All right. So we've talked about the what. What is Chalica? But why? Why do we need Chalica when, frankly, we already have a heritage that includes Christmas and Yule, and for some of us, Hanukkah and 1,000 other winter holidays? Well, as Facebook would say, it's complicated. We long for ritual. Unitarian Universalists, like a lot of us, are hard-headed people who are dedicated to reason and science, and it's weird, all this holiday joy and stuff. And so sometimes we leave things out. We don't like ritual because we sometimes think, like, if I have to repeat the same words each week, what does that mean? Does it have any meaning? Is it rote? One of the things we love about this religion is that we do examine those questions. I've come to my own answers. I think that speaking together weekly is a ritual that gives us grounding and reminds us of things. When we say our affirmation or covenant each week, love is the spirit of this church. We can say it along without thinking about it, and sometimes we do, but we can also say it each week and remember what it means and be rededicated to it. And so there is something about ritual that all humans love and need, and there is something about ritual that many UUs feel is lacking in our churches. And so Chalica is just another wonderful way to do ritual and to bring it into our own longings and desires. Thank you. Here's the deal. UUs long for something that is our own. We are a syncretistic faith, and that just means that we're a faith that has taken ideas and philosophies and tenets and wisdom from many different pathways. Sometimes that makes our faith feel a little amorphous, a little bit hard to pin down, a little bit like, what do you tell people when they say, what's Unitarian Universalism? That's why we talk a lot about elevator speeches, your 1-minute speech in which you try to explain this faith. And so the syncretism, this fact that we are created of many paths, also leaves some of us unsure about our claims to all these holidays, right? Do we own Christmas as Christian heretics with a Christian heritage, or do churches where everyone claims Christianity own Christmas? Do we even want it? I mean, that's a real question in a faith that questions everything. And I think Chalica is a response to those longings as much as anything. The few things that we do have that are deeply and intrinsically our own, things like flower communion and water communion, some of our songs, these are very important to us because they are our own. They're not 2,000 years old, perhaps. They're maybe only 20 years or 18 years old, like Chalica, but they're ours, and that's important. So our principles aren't creed, and they're not dogma, but they are important, and they do hold truths with a lowercase t that you use voted. We wrote them and we voted on them and we came back to them and we edited them and we changed them and then we voted again. We chose those principles. We want to uplift them, and not just that. It's not just for in this building. Those principles are for the wide world. We don't only want to uphold our principles in here, we want to lift them up and honor and share them with the whole world outside. And so having a day begin with a reminder that each person is important, that everyone has inherent worth and dignity, it will change you. Each encounter will be different that day, at work or at school, with cashiers, with clerks, with your family members, perhaps, although sometimes they're the hardest ones to remember that about. Like all holidays, we get out of Chalica what we put into it. If it seems, like I said, to be just another obligation, then this isn't maybe the year for Chalica for you. Or maybe you just say, I'm going to do it gently this year. I'm going to light the chalice in the morning, go about my day. Even that, And what happens when we're changed, and you know this, is that we go out into the world and we change it too. Because when you do go out and you have those encounters where your brain says, that person with the bumper sticker for the politician that I did not vote for is next to me at the gas station, and I can still look at them and go, you're a person, and say, hi, I hope you have a great day. Or not, because it all depends on your own, engagement and your safety. You get to decide that. But I'm saying that if you have read in the morning about how we encourage one another to spiritual growth, it's a little easier to accept people's different spiritualities throughout your day. And so by us being changed, we then change others. Because I was in my car next to the bumper sticker of the politician I don't believe, in or vote for, and my car has the Black Lives Matter bumper sticker, right? Then Me, I'm not going to say, hi, have a great day. And generally speaking, they'll say you too. And that changes them, right? Changes them a little bit. So that's why we do it. So we do all these things. They're just reminders. They're just signposts like the principles themselves, guideposts along the road that we walk every single day. So why not have some little signs, some little joys, some tiny rituals that will expand things? Although Chalica is celebrated haphazardly at many UU churches, and lots of them don't celebrate it at all, there are churches that have really centered it, that it's become an important tradition for them in the last decades. And maybe that's something that we should think about here at Community UU Church, about whether that's what we want to try to do in the future. Maybe not. It's right after Thanksgiving. It's right before all the other holidays that we celebrate, and something's got to give. But I'll say this, it is worth thinking about for next year. And whether or not this church goes all in for Chalica next year or just mentions it, what about your family? Does your family want to go all in for Chalica? And what about you? Do you want to go all in for Chalica? I'll be doing the readings each day for myself in the morning and the evening, and I'll look at these different activities that are offered. They're really good. There's activities for, here, I don't want to look at Monday. I've told you enough about the inherent worth and dignity. Let's talk about Friday. All people need a voice, which is, as a family, it says you could call a family meeting. As an individual, you could talk about ways to expand voter registration, start sending some postcards. We know how to do that. It talks about foods you could eat that align with this holiday because, conscientious eating is a thing that we like to do. So for All People Need a Voice, you could have a vote on what is going to be for dinner. Gifts, you can talk about. This gives you ideas of gifts to give, but they're not purchases. The gift for Friday is listen to someone who needs to talk. Try not to be defensive or dismissive or offer up a quick fix. Yes, it's hard to hold someone's pain, but you give them the priceless gift of camaraderie and compassion. That's a pretty good gift. Then it suggests children's books you can read, movies, wonder question. I wonder what. For instance, if for All People Need a Voice, which is that we approve the democratic process and the right of conscience, I wonder what I would do if I were president. If I were president, what would I do? That's a great conversation starter. And then there's all kinds of additional ideas. For instance, it talks about getting involved with UU the Vote. And so I'm just saying that's just a little sample I'm giving you before you go. You can get as far into this as you want. You can engage it gently and lightly on the surface and then take it out with you. Or you can say to yourself, not for now, maybe another time. Again, it's Unitarian Universalism, and there are probably as many ways to do Chalica as there are us. And so I just want you to be aware, Chalica exists. It has something to offer, something special, I think, something that is uniquely ours. And I invite you to consider whether Chalica shouldn't be part of your week as well. Amen.